Thank you, Charles.
Mercedes Schlapp joins us now. Mercedes, you heard the president's speech this morning. Give us your thoughts, please.
Wow, it's going back to the basics, Charles. I mean, it's going back to this idea of courage, of determination, of the Western values of freedom. These are topics that we just haven't seen in the past or haven't seen in a long time. So I think for President Trump, the symbolism of going to Poland that has suffered under oppressive situations, whether it be the Nazis or the Russians, where they have dealt with those situations, I think was incredibly not only symbolic, but sends a very important message to the rest of the world. And also the fact that Poland, this idea of the creeping in of government bureaucracy, where Poland is resistant to the fact that of the European Union imposing itself, its rules, its regulations on Poland, is very significant because it sends a very nationalistic message, something that I think the Polish people can relate to and also the American people can relate to.
Mercedes, talking about the struggles that Poland had in the past, particularly when they were sandwiched between Nazi Germany and Russia, and how they came through that triumphantly. The symbolism that you're talking about, does that speak to the current day threat that open borders has created in most of Europe? And if so, what's going to be the solution ultimately?
Well, you know, I think it's complicated for Europe. I think that you're seeing the impact of a migrant situation, a migrant crisis that has impacted so many of these European nations. Obviously, the European Union has been very weak on the issue of immigration. And I think that when you see the fact, for example, in the United States, that the majority of Americans agree with the president's travel ban, with this idea of ensuring that we know who is coming in and out of our country, I think that's something that not only the American people understand and relate to, but it's something that I think you're seeing more and more Europeans basically saying, look, we need to find some sort of control to our borders. So I think it's a very strong message that the president is sending. But I believe in the sense of the European Union, they obviously between Germany and France, they're going to be very vocal, and they've made it very clear that they are going to continue allowing migrants to come into their country, and what has created, into a certain sense, is a sense of this uncontrollable border in that area.
Another issue, of course, is on trade and the notion of free versus fair trade. I found it fascinating this morning that the EU cut a new trade deal with Japan. We're still waiting on details. And they're going to probably lecture. We anticipate that Angela Merkel will lecture to President Trump to avoid trade wars. Of course, he talked about the lack of seeing Fords on the streets of Germany on his first visit over there as President of the United States. So they would love to preserve the status quo. They would love to preserve current trade deals as they are, while Americans understand that so far we've gotten the short end of the stick there.
Right, and I think that in the case of Merkel, for example, she wants a status quo on NATO, where they don't necessarily have to pay their fair share. And I think that it's why what you're going to see in this G20 summit is more tension than we've seen in the past. Not only will the President Trump face the tension that we're going to see with when he meets with Putin, or, for example, with the president of China, but also with Merkel, because Merkel's going to be upset at the fact that the president pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. She's going to be upset at the fact of where the president is headed in terms of focusing on the trade deals. But, you know, I think the president made his position very clear. This is about protecting American interests. This is assuring that there is American prosperity, that we ensure that we protect our workers, something that I think you would believe that the Europeans would understand. But obviously, they've had a very different impression of where they want to take these trade deals. And it will be interesting to see where we can find that common ground. We just saw today President Trump at this 3Cs initiative talking with Poland and several countries in Eastern Europe in dealing with the issues of energy and providing alternative energy sources. So it is about having this dialogue and conversation with some of these individual countries, as well as figuring out what the role will be between the United States and the European Union.
Mercedes Schlapp, thank you very, very much as usual. We appreciate it.
Thank you.